Welcome, good afternoon from the Costa del Sol. I'm Bill Anderson, and we're going to step up a little bit. For those of you who might think that living on the Costa del Sol is quite exotic, well, we're going one beyond that, and I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, Silvia Garcia, who is on the Canary Island of Lanzarote. Welcome, Silvia.
Hello, Bill. Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
So, how is the weather on Lanzarote today, Silvia?
I was checking the weather because I was sure you would ask. First of all, we have the same time zone as the UK, so it's 12 o'clock here,
All
not
right. Yeah.
and I was checking right now. It says 24 degrees, but if you are standing in the sunshine, depending on where you are, you may feel it's 30,
Yeah.
but there's a difference between where you are and the wind and everything, but it's lovely day for holiday makers.
Yeah,
Amazing.
we're about the same over here, I think, today, Sylvia. It's interesting that you say that you're in the UK time zone, which is actually 1 hour behind where we are in mainland Spain. But
Yeah,
the strange thing is that people may not be aware about is that the Greenwich Meridian, the prime meridian, actually runs through Spain. So we
yeah.
should be on the same time zone as the UK. But General Franco decided to change it during his time in power to be on the same time zone as Germany.
Yes, I thought you would know about that,
Yeah,
which is something that is repeated every year, like saying, why are we like that? Okay, yes.
yeah. Well, it's one of these things. They say in Spanish, "Es lo que hay." It's just the way it is. I can't
Yes.
I can't really see them changing that. Sylvia, but this is expat radio, and you are in your own right a kind of expat as well, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, you know that, can you believe I only heard the word expat when I was in Lanzarote? I arrived with my family, my husband and two small children, 23 years ago. It was this week was actually the anniversary. It was
All
March
right.
2000. And I had never heard the word expat. We always talked about being an immigrant.
Yes.
You know, I was born in Argentina from Spanish and also part Italian family. We are like the children of the immigrants, the European people who
Sure.
left Europe and went to America.
Yeah.
One part of my family, they first got established in Brazil. Then they had, for example, two of their kids there. Then they went south, and the rest, then they stayed in Argentina. So we all have stories like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. There are some people don't like the word expat because they think it sounds like we're better than everyone else. But
Yeah,
actually, yeah, I am an immigrant to Spain, but I am an expat from my home country. I'm
yeah.
expatriated from my own country, so I don't get upset about it. I
Yeah.
think it
I
can
never
be.
gave it a negative meaning at all.
No.
But then, through the time here, I've seen that some English people, or British in general, they don't like to call themselves expats, and it's because all that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I also learned from them that they saw a difference in words. But well,
Yes. So Sylvia, you were born in Argentina. You had your family in Argentina, and you decided to move to Spain. Now,
yeah,
when people think about moving to Spain, I would say that the Canary Islands is not the first thing that jumps to mind, is it?
exactly. No, no, no. But the question is this: my husband, whose parents are Spanish, his mother from Asturias,
Oh, in
his
the
father,
north,
all the
yeah,
family are from Navarra.
yeah,
Part of my family is from the Basque country
right,
and from Galicia, all in
right,
the north of Spain.
yeah,
And we never thought we would go to the north of Spain because if we were moving, we wanted, to enjoy, uh, I don't know, life like in the Canary Islands. And the,
right,
the only reason, although it sounds crazy, was that one of my husband's best friends was already established in Lanzarote.
right.
And so they had traveled, visited Lanzarote, and well, we came here thinking it was much easier to raise your kids here, and it was.
Yes,
They
yes.
are, when they are small children.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to, we're going to do a bit of a description of Lanzarote because a lot of people listening in different parts of the world might not really be aware. But the Canary Islands are about, they're Spanish, but
Yes,
they're only about 100 kilometers off the coast of the Western Sahara of
exactly.
Africa, yeah, of Morocco.
The Canary Islands, the archipelago, I
Yeah,
never know the word. It's 7 big islands or bigger islands
yes,
and some small ones. And then we are the island that is nearest to Africa, to Morocco, of all of them.
yeah,
The distance, they say 100, some people here say 80, 80 kilometers,
yeah.
right? And yes, the climate, the atmosphere, it's not at all like what you see in Spain, of
No,
course.
no, and just to compare that, but maybe it's 80 when the tide's out or something,
I
but
don't know where they take the measurements
yeah,
from.
but just to compare that, to the nearest point in Spain, it's about 1,000 kilometers. So,
Yes,
I think that's a good comparison. I mean, you're basically off the west coast of Africa.
yes. And
Uh,
you know what? We are in the Atlantic Ocean.
yes,
And there is something that local Canarian people hate. Many times I've seen very like funny kind of comics doing it the opposite way. When you draw the map of Spain, you see a map of Spain.
yes,
They see the Balearic Islands, the Mediterranean, and they bring up the Canary Islands and put them somewhere near. And I understand it's like practical, but
yes,
local people in the Canary Islands hate that. And
yeah,
sometimes they've made the map of the Canary Islands and like a small adding Spain. Like
right.
say, why do you think you bring us up? And it's true that many people think when they haven't visited the islands that we are in the Mediterranean,
Yes,
because if you
yes.
look at the map, you see it near Spain. We are not so near Spain.
No, no, as I say, I mean, to the nearest point in Spain, it's about 1,000 kilometers, give or take, maybe 1,020,
Yeah, 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 of
um,
course.
but yeah, yeah, I mean, it's very much, I mean, it's not even close to Spain. And it's certainly not Mediterranean, as you say. You're plopped there in the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's why if we talk, sorry, just a comment that crossed my mind about Christopher Columbus going to America. The last stop was in the Canary Islands
right.
because the big connection of the Canary Islands with Cuba and Venezuela, it's because apparently there's like a tide, no, probably not a tide, a current that would take you in a boat directly to Cuba.
Right,
And
right.
they had so much. Uh, in the past, they called Venezuela the another Canary Island.
Really?
Not really. Yes, because of the connection,
Yeah.
and because people, Canarian people, were also migrants
Yes.
going mainly to Venezuela and Cuba.
Yeah. I mean, some people may be familiar just with some names. For example, Tenerife,
Different.
or Gran Canaria, and they may be aware of these places as holiday destinations, for example. But
Exactly.
as you say, there are well, more than 7 islands, but
Yeah.
seven main islands,
Yeah.
and are they? Would you say more tourist destinations than just a good place for people to go to live, or but what's your view on that, Sylvia?
Well, first of all, the 7 islands are completely different one from another. And
Yeah.
the 2 big islands have, apart from tourism, they have rural areas that in Lanzarote we do too, but completely different and much smaller. And I think that many people have chosen to move to the Canary Islands, probably first thing because of the climate,
Yes.
but also they see it as a very safe place. it's always been safe.
Mm,
People who get really, I don't know, fed up, I would say, tired with city life or
yeah,
driving 2 hours each way you go to work, all that. That's what doesn't happen here.
right.
And many, of course, many retired people
Hmm.
who have always dreamt of coming here after visiting the islands many times on holiday, usually.
Yeah, and the interesting thing in terms of Spanish islands, I mean, there are lots of other Spanish islands. Thinking particularly of the Balearics,
Yes.
Menorca, Mallorca, Ibiza. The difference is, I think, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that the difference between the Balearic Islands and the Canaries is that you're a year-round holiday destination.
Yeah, yes, that's true. There are no like I don't know, like fixed seasons or that some. It's true that some groups of tourists or nationalities tend to go on holiday or to stay for a couple of months on a certain time of the year. And it's true that people from Nordic countries tend to spend maybe 2 months or 3 months or one, I don't know,
Yeah.
during their winter, they go to the Canary Islands.
Yes.
And it's true that the Gran Canaria had, I think, the biggest number of Swedish and Finnish people,
Right.
Norwegian, they are the ones who had but I have Norwegian friends who come here and have a second home and they love it. But yes, the thing is, what do they like about island life in Lanzarote? That is what I know, is
Hmm.
that I think they feel free, they feel healthy, honestly, they
Yes.
feel they can have much healthier life and enjoy nature. And of course, you don't have the big, I don't know, business life or city life entertainment
Yeah.
in a great, I don't know, great shows, not the best museums, but we do have lots of. It's not Lanzarote is not a beach only holiday resort.
Right.
There's
Right.
much more to do. There are a lot of people who come to Lanzarote because of sport,
Okay.
and that's one of the areas where Turismo Lanzarote, the institution, is always working.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, I guess there's a lot of water sports around Lanzarote.
Yes,
Yes.
but not only because there's a lot of cycling. We have an Ironman that happens every year in May, and it attracts I don't know. I think minimum 2,000 athletes,
Right.
from many countries of the world, many different things.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think our producer Dave was just thinking that he's going to enter the Ironman next year. But maybe not
It's a bit late to start training for this year,
for
but
this year.
maybe
Yeah.
2024, yes.
Yeah, the Canary Islands. And let me just go back a little bit because I've got a
Yes.
lot to talk about, Sylvia. I read some time ago that the Canary Islands has nothing to do with canaries, uh,
Yes.
and there's a lot of debate, isn't there, about how they got their name.
Yes.
Um, and what is your theory?
Well, I've read, because it's true that I had never thought about that, about the name, or you, without like really doing any research, you think of the birds. When we came here, I started looking for information, and I read something that said, well, no, the birds were named after the islands,
That's
not
right.
the other way around.
Yeah.
And so it's supposed to be that can, like Latin, I think can is dog, and it's
Yes.
because the first Europeans saw big dogs. But then I also learned that it could have been how do you say,
Sea lions.
sea
Sea lions.
lions
Yes.
that looked like big dogs.
Yes.
And well, that's the
Yeah,
theory,
because apparently the Romans called sea lions sea dogs,
right?
that's another theory.
Now
The,
I remember, yes, you're
yeah,
right.
and the other theory that I came across was because you're actually very close to the Western Sahara in Morocco, that I'm told, people can argue with this if they want to, but there is a Berber tribe from Morocco called the Canary, and
Yes.
they settled in some of these islands. And well, it's interesting anyway. But it isn't because there's a lot of canaries there. The Canaries were called after the islands. Yeah,
There are some, yes, but not that they were originally here.
yeah. So I was looking at some some things about Lanzarote, and came across a picture, and it said the Lanzarote moonscape. And
Oh, yes.
I actually, in certain lights, and certainly from the air, you could almost mistake parts of Lanzarote for a moonscape, couldn't you?
Yeah, it's amazing. I really love it. I grew up very near farms and cattle and all that. And the first time I saw the volcanoes, we have in Lanzarote, there's a national park, the Timanfaya, that's the name, also called the Mountains.
Right.
And this national park is the park of the volcanoes. I don't know if you have read that there was an eruption 300 years ago.
Right.
1930, it lasted 7 years.
I saw that.
And
Yes.
so that area that was farms, it was all growing crops, was covered in lava, but not, how can I tell you, not hard lava. It's like ashes,
Right. Yes.
volcanic ashes. So then, after all that, people started like making holes and planting again. And that's why we have vines and we have wine made
Right.
in Lanzarote. And that's something you have to see. It's amazing. I do hope that you come here one day on holiday, because it's really unique.
Yes. Yeah.
It's amazing.
But the area, I mean, I believe that the Canary Islands are on the African tectonic plate.
Yes.
And I don't know if it was maybe 2 years ago, but one of the other islands, La Gomera,
La
had,
Palma.
or La Palma, I'm sorry,
Yeah, no,
had serious problems with volcanic eruptions, didn't they?
yes. But now, well, it seems that the government has been really putting a lot of money, I think, and working on that. And I think that right now all the roads are again, everything is
It's
working.
been, yeah,
Yes, yes. The eruptions, well, it's something that slowly comes. The kind of lava. If you read the information written by the priest that was writing a kind of diary when
uh-huh.
the eruptions happened in Lanzarote, he said the speed of the lava is like a baby crawling.
Right, okay, yeah, yeah,
Nobody
yeah,
was killed.
uh-huh.
It's like you have time to see it happening. And the same, although not exactly like that, but that's what happened in La Palma.
Right. Yeah,
So
so
it was,
there's probably more people put themselves at risk trying to get in and get selfies with flowing lava than actually from the danger from the lava itself. Yeah.
yeah, it attracted a lot of tourists. And I know, yes, they had to have, I don't know, security guards, police, like respecting a security distance and all that. But it was okay. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, you've been 23 years on Lanzarote, Sylvia. Um, but what is your take on island life? Do you think it suits some people and not others? How does island life feel?
Well, how can I? The question is that in my own experience, I came here because, yes, I loved it. And we made a decision and we had our children, and you concentrate on one type of life, and I always worked with the English speaking community. So I met many people. I didn't suffer, let's say, at all with island life. I know that some people think that the island is too small, and the world is reduced, and they don't really love it from day one. And so they leave, or people who stay for some time and leave. But in general, it's great because of what I said: safe, you feel safe, security, everything, you know, like uh, you feel you have a kind of what we call quality of life.
Right.
It
Yes.
that for the people who stay, everybody loves it.
Uh-huh.
And we have people who want to live more in the kind of holiday resorts,
Uh-huh.
and other people who don't want to go to the holiday resorts at all. You
Yeah.
know, they are happy with their lives.
Right. And is there much in the way of rural living in Lanzarote? Even here on the Costa del Sol, you don't need to go very far inland to see a lot of sort of rural life and rural living.
Yes.
Do you see much of that on Lanzarote, or is thing mainly concentrated around the towns and villages?
Well, we have lots of small villages, but you know what? I never said anything about the size of the island, and it's 60 kilometers length
Right.
by 25, right?
Right.
60 by 20, that's the island. And
Yeah.
then if I tell you, yes, the center and more to the north is much more rural,
Right.
you have to come here and see it. It's lovely.
But you're still not more than 10 miles or 10 kilometers away from the sea, are you?
Yes, that's right. I live next to the airport, very near the sea, near the beach. Now there's a plane.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that the longest distance I have is 30 kilometers on each side, to,
Yes.
to the north or to the south.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're living on the coast. Are you living on the east coast, sort of heading facing Africa,
Yes,
or the west coast?
yes, I live on the coast with Africa across the
Uh,
sea, right next to the airport. We have
right.
a lovely airport because it's like small, but well, we have 40 airlines working,
Right.
and it's very, very well connected with most of the biggest European capitals. So it's really, really busy.
Uh-huh. And again, people may not be aware of this, but people who are resident on the Canary Islands, I don't know if it's just nationals or any residents, actually get cut price travel costs to
Yes,
Spain.
yes,
Yes, they get a
yes.
discounted travel.
To everybody who is a resident and Europeans resident, quicker than non-Europeans residents. But yes, you get a distance. Sorry, you get a discount because we may travel for health reasons, or to
Yes.
mainland Spain, or family, or because you are at university and you travel. So yes.
Yeah. And do you leave the island very often, or is life on Lanzarote um, good enough? You live in paradise already. Where do you go on holiday?
That's what I told my kids when they complain not going on holiday anywhere else.
Yeah.
When we first arrived, and I said, many people come here on holiday. We spend the summer here, and no, that's when we first arrived.
Yeah.
I traveled to mainland Spain, but mostly to Madrid because my daughter lives there,
Right.
and that's what we do. Like I go very often.
Yes.
And then my son lives in Gran Canaria, so we visit him, but he comes to Lanzarote a lot.
Yeah.
And usually, our children, the children who grew up here and go to university, work somewhere else, they love to come, and they come with their friends. And everybody, all their friends want to come to Lanzarote,
Yeah.
you know?
So you head off to Madrid for a bit of shopping therapy from time to time, then, Sylvia.
Yes,
Yeah.
and city and city life, yes, and walking. I love it. But for you, I don't know, to have an idea of time, the trip to Madrid takes 2 hours, 20 minutes, 2.5 hours maximum.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the flight to Madrid.
Sure. I was looking on I think it was on Google Maps or something, and they were talking about the trip from Morocco to the Canary Islands, and I don't know how they were doing it, but I think they were doing it by car from Fez or something, and then going up all the way to the
Cadiz.
to no, I think they were going to somewhere like Tanger and crossing
Yeah.
over into Spain and then coming down, and they say length of trip 2 days, 11 hours. And I thought, this is crazy. Who's going to spend
Yeah.
2 days and 11 hours?
Yes, yes, people who take their car, come in the ferry, it leaves from Cadiz, Huelva.
Right? Yeah, yeah,
I think it takes 2 days. Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
I've
I
never
don't.
done that. I won't do that.
No, it doesn't really appeal to me either. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have your own car when you're on the island, but you know, 2 days in a ferry to get there. I mean, it doesn't sound like the most luxurious way to travel, does it?
No, I think it's people who actually are moving here,
Okay,
and they come with their car. It's
yeah.
not.
Sylvia, we're going to take a short break, and we've got lots of things to talk about. The little scandal from the president of Lanzarote, which wasn't really a scandal. We're going to talk about that. Talk about the cost of living. We've got lots of more things to talk about. We're going to listen to Westlife right now, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Thanks.
Welcome back. I'm Bill Anderson, and I'm coming live today from the Costa del Sol and from the Canary Island of Lanzarote with my guest today, Silvia Garcia. Welcome back, Silvia.
Hello again. Thank you.
Sylvia, I have a lot of sort of questions about island living, but you do a lot of work with the I'm going to call them the international community, don't you?
Yeah, I would say yes, the English speaking community, because that's what I always work with. The question is that many people, especially people who have been here for many years, but they never had the need to work in a Spanish company or anything, and they only speak English, as you said.
Yeah.
It's like they may need help with different issues. So I do that. I also do uh, relocation services,
Right.
and in general, help with paperwork, residencias, and all that.
Yes.
So yes, I know many people who have been here for 30 years or over, and people who are newcomers.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So not only from the UK.
Yeah, it is. This maybe sounds like a silly question, and I think I maybe partly know the answer. But in terms of the language, I mean, we have the same problem here on the Costa del Sol that people live here for decades and don't learn the language. Is the language in the Canary Islands very different from sort of I don't know if we can say mainland Spain
It's
or
Spanish.
just
You,
from Castellano, the sort of
yeah.
classical Spanish. Do they have, is it dialect? Do they have a different way of speaking?
There is a different way of speaking, but if you come from Andalusia, it's not so different,
All
but
right.
it depends. No, the Spanish spoken in the Canary Islands is much more nearer to the Spanish spoken in Cuba, as I told you,
Ah,
Venezuela.
right. Okay.
It's more like that. And I love the accent, and I love the Cuban accent. I think it's like it's lovely. we I know when people have taken lessons, suppose with a teacher that insists on the difference between, I cannot even say it, but like gracias or the sound,
Right.
the
Yes.
Z. In Latin America and in the Canary Islands, that difference doesn't exist, for example. So everything is with the sound S.
S. Okay.
So
Yeah.
we say gracias.
Yes.
Gracias. And we say Lanzarote, not Lanzarote or
Okay. With
Lanzarote.
like a th sound. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's Lanzarote.
Oh,
That's the real name, or zapato, for shoe.
for shoes. Yeah.
Yes, zapato.
Yeah.
Gracias, Lanzarote. But there
All
are
right.
some words which are different, of course, as in every region, but nothing else. I'm sorry. This is the African dust, the word kalima.
The Kalima, yes, yeah.
Yes, we
Well, actually,
have,
just about 1 year ago, today, we had the most awful Kalima, which is this Saharan dust storm, and
yes.
it felt like we were living in a sepia-colored movie. where everything was orange.
Yes,
And the colour had drained out of it, so you suffer from that down there, I guess. Well, you're very close to the
we are
Sahara.
very close, and we get yes, sometimes it's a couple of days when we
Yeah,
feel the kalima. Sometimes it's exactly what you say,
yeah.
and people take amazing photos at sunset. No,
Oh
especially
yes, yeah.
it's bad for breathing. Just that.
Yeah, well, but what I have to say is that even here on the Costa del Sol, we're probably even closer to the coast of Africa
Yeah,
than you are. I can if I go up onto any sort of high setting here on the Costa del Sol, we can see the Rift Mountains of Morocco quite clearly on a good day.
yeah,
And going from sort of Tarifa over to Tanger, it's like an hour in the ferry. It's we're actually very close to Africa as well, but probably not quite so much Saharan Africa, you know.
yeah. And the wind usually blows in this direction.
Right.
And that's why. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you've been working for a long time because you do translation services as well, and you help people to get their paperwork sorted out, and probably deal with all sorts of, I'm going to call them silly questions, but the kind of questions that people would rather not know that they'd asked you. Like,
No, but I understand them so well when you think it's something that it's in your mind, making you feel, really worried. And
yeah,
then after you ask the question, you probably think, what a silly question. But no, it wasn't. When you don't know, you need to ask.
yeah.
And it's part of my work, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you a bit about the cost of living, because we tend to think that island life, in theory, should be more expensive. Now, I've been, I guess, for everyone, regardless of where you live, the cost of living has gone up
Yeah.
by a third at least, if not more than that, over the last year or so. But how would you compare the cost of living on Lanzarote compared to, for example, mainland Spain, because your daughter's living in Madrid?
Yes. Well, we are in a moment, in a situation in which the biggest problem in Lanzarote, if you are a person who has a job and needs to work, or gets a job here, is the problem of not finding rental apartments, or and
Right.
that's terrible, and it's not only happening here, of course, also in Madrid. A friend of my daughter's had to move, and the smallest of all the mini apartments was like 1,200
Uh,
per month. That's a big part of the problem here. There are no long-term rentals available at the moment
yeah.
that you see advertised or anything. The prices, of course, have gone up a lot in
Yes.
rental, and so that makes it very difficult sometimes to get, the hotels have sometimes problems to get workers, um, and that affects everything because
Yes.
the
Yeah.
cost of rental properties does affect everything. I have to say it's cheaper, mm, in some ways, and not so cheap in other ways.
Right.
It's clear that for local people, because they have a family home and they started in a different way, but foreigners either come because they have sold their home in their country sometimes, and want to move and buy a property here, so
Right.
that's not a problem. But for somebody who comes to work and has to, to pay everything, including rental, it's not cheap.
No.
No, not at the moment.
Well, actually, our daughter is living and working on Mallorca, and to be honest, they're having the same problems there. They have a rental; it's not cheap, but even looking at trying to find another one is like looking for gold dust.
Exactly. Yes,
Um,
yes.
or as you say, the prices are so expensive that trying to do that off one salary would be quite difficult. You know.
Yeah. No, that's clear, and that's one of the reasons. In a way, all this in a way is a bit connected what your question about what the president of the cabildo. We have
Yes.
on the islands, we have the authority. We have all the municipalities with their mayor, the alcalde. We have 7 municipalities in Lanzarote
Right.
and one island authority who is now Dolores Corujo, a lady who is the president of the cabildo.
Yes. Yeah, and we had a chat about this previously, Sylvia. What came out in the press was that she wanted to get rid of all these cheapskate British tourists and attract more sort of upmarket tourists, which was not quite what she said, was it?
No, I was rereading the statement she then said, because at the very beginning it was like one of the English newspapers shared all this information,
Yeah.
and some people, other politicians and other political groups, they started saying you have to like give a quick reply, a formal reply to all this, and
Uh-huh.
it took some days, and then her reply started saying, you can't clarify something that hasn't been said.
Right.
This is the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's like they in a way, it's like they couldn't believe. Even the director or the manager of Jet 2 asked, like, what do you mean?
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you, I have to read this phrase because in her statement, she said, the assessment I made of the future of the tourism sector on the island has been taken out of context by some and deliberately misrepresented by others.
Right.
She is very thankful, let's say, for the British community. We didn't say that British people are the number one foreigner residents here in number.
Uh-huh.
At the moment, the population is 1,056,000, the population of the island.
156,000.
1,000, yes. And the British population is almost 7,000,
Right.
6,800,
Yeah.
followed by Colombians, Italians, people from Morocco, Germany,
Right.
and many nationalities. But what she said is that she never said that, but there must be the right kind of tourism development and not
Sure.
building more and more hotels.
Yeah.
Everything started, I think, because it's that.
But I think it's reasonable for well, let's just call it an island, but it doesn't matter if it's an island or a mainland area. I think it's reasonable for them to decide what kind of tourism they want and how much tourism they can actually cope with.
Yeah.
Because building more hotels might increase the number of tourists, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better tourism, that the infrastructure can stand it, and that people have the same kind of good experience from going to that place.
Yeah. And you know what? We have the topic of water. Water on the island. It's not unlimited.
Yes.
You cannot. We have nearly 3 million tourists a year coming to
Yeah.
the island. And the reason why I said, in a way, my point of view, it's a bit connected with the question of the rentals,
Mm.
is that anybody who had any kind of spare room, made it in a terrace into an apartment, they rent it on Airbnb.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the truth. That's not tourism. That
No.
that was, I think, connected with that. And then many people thought that they lost chances of renting a property long term because the owner preferred to offer it as a tourist accommodation.
Yeah.
And that's not what the island needs as offered to tourists.
No, of course not. Of course not. And on the issue of water, because we're having the same problems here in the south of Spain with water supply, because actually, since the days of Franco, there's been nothing substantially done to increase the water capacity And
Yeah,
I'm talking about the storage capacity for the water.
yeah.
Yet, a place like Mijas, where I live, in those years, we've gone from probably about 25 to 30,000 people to 93,000 people, and we keep building and keep building and keep building. I'm going to ask again. It sounds like a stupid question. Your water. I mean, it must rain from time to time, or is the water actually desalinated, or
Yeah.
how do they do it?
It's desalinated water. And in fact, the people, the engineers who designed this, I think they were one of the first, or even the first, who started this system.
Right.
So we have to look after our water.
Totally.
In the past, the original population, they collected water from rain, and because there were very few people, they they had to do what they could with the water they got. And if
Yes.
one year there wasn't much rainfall, I've talked to people, to local people, who say they remember when they were little children, if one day it was raining, how much they loved to go and play and dance in the rain, believe
Yes.
me. And they said it's my best childhood memory
Yeah.
because they enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, I can understand that. So you don't really have a very high rainfall. So you're not actually getting reservoirs filled up through natural rainfall. It's mainly from desalination plants.
Exactly. And then, well, in the past, all the houses had their own aljibe, like a water
Water
deposit,
deposit, yeah.
every house. And so it was in that way how it was done. But, well, the funny thing is that Lanzarote, for some people, is a very brown island, but we have rain in usually February, January, February, and within a week, all the I don't know, everywhere you look looks green, which
Yeah.
is incredible. It
But
doesn't last too long because the sunshine
yeah.
then is.
Volcanic ash or soil with volcanic ash is very rich in nutrients, isn't it?
Yes, yes, and then that's why the volcanic ash covers the very fertile soil, and
Hmm.
that's why they could plant, different, I don't know, the vines, different
Yeah.
types of vines.
I did read that some of the vineyards are planted in volcano craters.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So it's amazing to see. You have to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, excuse me. Sylvia, could you see yourself living in any other way other than on, not necessarily the island of Lanzarote, but on an island? Do you think you've adapted your life and lifestyle to island living in a way that you would find difficult moving on to, say, the mainland?
Well, we never know, but because we have moved in such a hard way, from lifestyle and everything, we know maybe you do it again or whatever. But yes, I can. So many people come to Lanzarote to retire that we
Yeah,
could also retire here.
yeah,
I don't know. I think for us, it depends a lot maybe on our children or in the future where they are, but
right.
we are happy and we are not planning to leave at all. No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah, it always sounds very superficial when we talk about the weather, the weather, the weather, and those of us from the north of Europe, we get a bit obsessed by the weather, but it is the weather that offers you the quality of life.
Yeah, I
Isn't
think
it? It isn't all about sunbeds and beaches, but it's the quality of life, the outdoor style of life
exactly.
that we don't have from these cold northern countries.
Yeah, no, and it's the feeling of getting up in the morning and seeing the sky, the blue sky or whatever with clouds, but we know, you know that you have that feeling of energy. Many
Yes,
people feel the energy in Lanzarote. Many people say, I will be back because I have never felt in this way so
yes.
energized. I don't know. We love it.
Yeah, but I think for me, I mean, I'm from Scotland originally, and it doesn't really matter where you are in Scotland. You're not very far away from either from the sea, either the
Yeah.
Atlantic or the North Sea, and then you're surrounded by water everywhere. And I think that this being surrounded by water in itself is great for your energy.
Yes. You know that I have these memories for the first week we were here. I had a map of Lanzarote and my husband was driving and I couldn't believe there's another village now coming, another village. And I looked at the map and I thought, no, it can't be because they are far apart. But my idea of kilometers
Yes,
coming from Argentina and the Lanzarote map, you know,
yes.
I saw big distances when it was 5 kilometers maybe between one and the other. And I always remember that confusion I had.
Yeah, I can understand
And
that.
I love it. I love it because then when I go back, fly to Buenos Aires, and then we have to drive 500 kilometers to see my
Yes,
friends. You
yeah.
know, it's completely different.
Sylvia, we're just about out of time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today about life on Lanzarote. Um, and well, I hope that maybe you know the Lanzarote Tourist Board might pick you up on some of this because I think you've done a very good job at presenting it. Thank you
Oh,
so much for joining me
no, thank
today.
you very much. I loved it, and thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome. Can I wish everyone a great weekend as it comes? And we'll be back next week at 1 o'clock next Friday. Take care, everyone.